Hello, my dear students. My name is Ina, and today I'd like to talk to you about such topic as subject and object questions. We will discuss with you the difference between them. Some students have a lot of questions and they don't feel the difference, but the difference is huge, and I will explain you how we do that. We will start with an examples, and after that I will pay attention to each type. So we have here with you the topic, subject and object questions. I will write you here a sentence, a simple one. I have a dog. Subject question is, who has a dog? This is subject question. Oops. The next one, who do you have? It's an object question. Now let's look precisely on each of them. The first one we will have is your subject question. You know what is subject? Subject is a person who does the action. It's usually something what is at the beginning of our sentence. For example, I work every day. I is the subject. My husband sometimes cooks. My husband is the subject. My daughter loves painting. My daughter is the subject. When we want to create a question about the subject, when we want to find out who does what, in this case, we need to use question words. What question words we need to use for subject question? Usually this is who, what, sometimes which, sometimes whose, but not so often. Usually who or what. So we have, let's look at the sentence, and we have a sentence. Okay. She has a bag. In this case, subject is she. And our task is very simple one. We just close with our hand this word, and on our hand we write over here who. If you don't mind, I will not write because I need to conduct more webinars. But let's imagine that I wrote here who, and this is how we create the question. Who has a bag? Mary has a bag. When we create subject question, we don't need to use any auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. We don't need does, do, have, has, or anything. We just close the subject and create the question with the rest of the sentence. There is one thing that you have to keep in mind, that these words, who, what, which, or whose, they are third person. So if I write here, well, a very simple sentence. We go to school every day. What is the subject of our sentence? We. How to create the question? Close your hand. Close this word with your hand and write over here who. But as who, third person, we need to say who goes to school. We don't need does or anything. Or let's create one more. They have a house. They is the subject of the sentence. We close it and we write who. But again, who is the third person? So we need to change have into has. Who has a house? It's only in present tenses, because when we have past tenses, we don't need to change, to make any changes. For example, we went to school, and well, I will write over here. We went to school. The question is, who went to school? No changes. They had a house in the past. So the question is, who had the house in the past? Again, no changes. This is how we form subject questions. I think that I've told you almost everything. Let's look at the object. I hope it's enough work over here. We have, you can still hear, see, so we have object. What is object? Object is something what we have. For example, she has a bag. Bag is the object. We go to school. To school is a place. It's the object. They have a house. A house is the object. And how to create questions about object. I have to turn it that you can see better. So one more time, object questions. Object. We will take the same sentence. She has a bag. Yeah, talking about object, we need to use the same questions, question words as I wrote before. Who, what, whose, sometimes. Actually, we can use lots of questions with object. Where, which, which, and so on and so forth. We can use lots of questions. I will write like this. Okay, so she has a bag. A bag is the object because she is the subject. We have already discussed it. So how to create the question? We identify, first of all, the tense. The tense is present simple. If it is present simple, we need auxiliary verb do. But as we have here she, we need to create does, not do. So the question is, what does she have? The answer, a bag. So for object questions, we need to use the full form of WH questions. You can watch my previous webinar about it. Question word, auxiliary verb, subject, verb. Let's look at more examples. I know the president of Ukraine. Okay, the president is the subject of, is the object, I'm sorry, of this sentence. How to make a question? Who, auxiliary verb, this is present simple. Do you know? Who do you know? Let's make one more. We are talking to our children, to our kids. It's shorter. We are talking to our kids. To our kids is the object of our sentence. So the question is, who are we talking to? So to create subject question, it's very easy because we just close our subject and we create the subject. We create the subject question. But with object, we have to identify the tense. We have to use the correct auxiliary verb, and we always use subject and verb. So in our object questions, we always have subject. who does the action. You know, we talking, she have, we have here. Let's move on to our practice. We need more practice, and while we are practicing, I will also make some comments and explain you maybe more and in details. I hope you can see we have here subject and object questions. And let's look at the first one. We have here a family of 3 lives next door. We have to create 2 questions, 1 subject and 1 object questions. I will help you with this one. A family of 3 is the subject of the question. So we just close it and we create a question. Who lives next door? Next door is the object of the question, and we created saying where auxiliary verb does a family of 3 live. Next, I play with my little brother. Subject, I. How to create a question? Just close it and write who. Who plays? Why us? Because it's third person. Who plays with my little brother? My little brother is this object of the question. How to make it? Who do you play with? It's the present simple. That's why we need to use auxiliary verb do before the subject. Mrs. Dawson teaches me math. Mrs. Dawson is the subject. So the question is, who teaches you maths? Me is the object. Sorry, my mouse disappeared. Me is the object. How we make the question? Who does Mrs. Dawson teach? She teaches me. I usually eat a sandwich for lunch. I is the subject of the question. So the question is very easy. Who usually eats a sandwich for lunch? Again, we use as because it's present simple, and who is the third person. A sandwich is our object. How to make a question? Think about the tense. It's present simple, so we need do. What do you usually eat for lunch? Let's move on. I have 4 more sentences. Horror films frighten me. Horror films, subject. So we close them and we say, what frightens you? What, because who we use only for people, and what we use for other things, not people. Again, we say as because it's present simple, and what is third person. Me is the object of the question. So who do horror films frighten? Or whom, you can also say. I talk most to my friend Dina or Dinah. I is the subject of the question. Close it and we create who talks most to Dinah. Dina, I don't know. If we want to create the object question, to my friend we need to ask. It's present simple, so we need to use auxiliary verb do. Who do you talk most to? To preposition we use as the and. You can also watch my webinar about WH questions, and there I explain that we need to use preposition at the end of the questions. I sit next to Maria in English. I is the subject of the question. How to ask the question? Just say who. Who sits, third person, next to Maria in English? Next to Maria is the object of the question, object of the sentence. So we also say who, but it's present simple. We say who do you sit next to? Music helps me study. Music is the subject of the question. We say, what helps me study? Me is the object of the sentence, sorry. How to create it? Saying just who does music help study? Or whom, if you want. Let's move on. Okay, we have here with you sentences, and in the sentences we need to ask questions. I think I forgot to highlight, or maybe it's not showing, unfortunately, but the first one you need to ask question about the witness. So you must understand its subject or object and how to create the question. In the second, you need to ask about Harry Adams. Let's think how to do it. Who recognized Harry Adams? The next one, about Harry Adams, it's the object of the question. So we say, whom did the witness recognize? No ed because we use here did. Whom did the witness recognize? The court session begins at 9 a.m. We need to create the question about time. What time does the court session begin? 5 witnesses testified. We need to ask the question about 5 witnesses. It also will be the subject, as you understand. How many witnesses? No auxiliary verbs, nothing. Testified. The jury found Adams guilty because he didn't have an alibi. So we need to ask about because. Why did the jury find Adams guilty? We ask the question about object. The next one. Something horrible happened. We need to ask a question about something. What happened? Very easily. The trial lasted 2 weeks. We ask about 2 weeks. So this is this object. How long did the trial last? The judge spoke to the jury. The question will be about the judge. So about the subject of the question. Who spoke to the jury? Adams paid his barrister $2,000. We need to ask how much did Adams pay his barrister? And the last one, the prosecution questions the restaurant manager. We need to ask the question about restaurant manager. Who did the prosecution question? Quite simple. Let's move on. We have here sentences, and in these sentences we have unknown information. Unknown information is somebody or something. I'll give you a minute to think what kind of question we should use, subject or object, and how to create it. Maybe a 2. I hope you are ready. Let's look at our answers. Somebody is having a party. Somebody is the subject. So, who is having a party? Party, not part. I'm reading something. Something is the object of the question. So we ask, what are you reading? I have learned something. Something is this object of the question. So we ask, what have you learned? We must do something. Something is the object of the question. Object must be. What must we do? And someone is looking for you. Someone is the subject. So we just close it and create the question. Who is looking for you? 5 more sentences and then we will make the conclusion. Again, you have a minute to think about. Let's check. I'm looking for someone. Someone is the object. Who are you looking for? Rachel is planning something. Object. What is Rachel planning? Somebody has moved in next door. Somebody is the subject. Who has moved in next door? Something is worrying me. Something is the subject as well. What is worrying me? And the last one, I want to meet someone. Someone is the object of the question, sorry. Who do you want to meet? That's it. Let's make the conclusion of our discussion today. So we discussed with you object and subject questions. When we want to create a subject question, we just use who or what and then the full sentence without any auxiliary verbs, no changes in the what order. Who helped you? I don't know. What have you, no, what have you got is the object question. When we want to ask about the object, what the person has, who the person talked to, then we need to use auxiliary verbs for sure. We use question words, auxiliary verbs, subject and verb, and this is how we create the object question. I hope the information was not only useful but also clear for you. You really understood the difference between these two types of questions. Wish you luck in using them. It's not easy, but I'm sure you can do that. Have a nice day. Bye, guys.